Have you ever witnessed two people who, even in silence, can make the world's heart race? Hello everyone, and welcome back to Jikook Magic, the place where ARMY's heartbeat quickens with just a single live broadcast. That day, the world may have gone on as usual, but for us, it was a day filled with unspoken signals, glances, and truths wrapped in silence. From a simple greeting to an unintentional whisper of longing, this broadcast of Jimin and Jungkook was far from ordinary. So, are you ready to dive into every second of meaning that left our hearts restless? That day may have seemed ordinary to the world. The sun rose and set like always. Traffic flowed as expected. The headlines didn't mention anything unusual. But for ARMY, especially those who have faithfully followed the subtle yet strong connection between two names that always come together in their hearts, Jimin and Jungkook, that day felt different. It felt like the pulse of time beating faster. Not because of the background, not even because of what they talked about, but because of the energy, the closeness. It all began with a simple greeting. "Hi," Jimin said, in that soft, familiar voice of his, slightly shy, with a small smile, as if he was greeting someone he had secretly missed. "Hi, everyone," Jungkook responded casually, but his body leaned closer, unaware he kept gravitating toward Jimin. There was gravity between them, something even the camera couldn't hide. It had been a long time since they last sat like this, together, without a stage spotlight, without a script, without orchestrated lighting. Just them. And a silence that felt warm. Jimin acknowledged it, with a joking tone of course. But his eyes betrayed a different truth. Like someone who had finally returned home after being away for too long. "It's good to see you," he said, then laughed. But the sentence wasn't as light as it sounded. It wasn't just a greeting. It was a quiet confession. A truth wrapped in playfulness. That day, Jimin seemed lighter. There was a different sparkle in his smile. He even said, "I lost weight, right?" while glancing at Jungkook, like a child seeking validation from someone close. And Jungkook? He didn't say anything, but his smile said it all. He noticed. He always does. "I think it's lunchtime in Korea now," Jimin said, checking the time. "So this is the perfect time to chat." But for those who know them, those words meant more than a time cue. It was an invitation. An invitation to be present, to connect. Even just for a moment. Jungkook added, "It's been about a week since we got here. Trust me, we've been working hard." There was no exaggeration in that sentence. But the weight of it was felt. They were tired, but they still chose to be here. Not out of obligation, but out of affection. Then came a moment that made everything feel even more real. "How are you?" Jungkook asked out of the blue. Jimin looked up. "How are you?" he replied. And without a pause, he softly added, "I missed you." 3 simple words. But they hit deep. No response was needed. The answer was already in the way they looked at each other. Jimin then shared a little about a new project they were working on. He chuckled, but the pride in his voice was clear. "Come to think of it, this might be the first time we're really saying we're working this hard," he said. "Have we ever said that before?" "No," Jungkook replied instantly. Genuine, honest, full of acknowledgement. Then Jungkook, usually playful, turned serious. "This coming spring, no matter what, we have to release something. We can't delay it anymore. We can't delay it anymore." It wasn't just a professional commitment. It felt like a soul-bound promise between two people who knew that time wouldn't always be on their side. But soon after, he lightened the mood again. "What's your concept today?" he asked with a chuckle. As always, the teasing continued. Laughter filled the space. But their conversation slowly returned to deeper topics. Music, dreams, and the future. "I'm curious what our title track will sound like," Jungkook said. "Me too," Jimin replied. They looked at each other. A soft smile formed. And for a moment, we could almost see them standing together on stage again. In the spotlight, not just as colleagues, but as two hearts moving in harmony. Then came a small moment that made the entire internet melt in warmth. "Put on lip balm," Jungkook said. "I'm fine," Jimin replied. "No, it's dry." "No, it's not," Jimin laughed, a little flustered. Dry. Jungkook repeated, louder, not out of anger, but out of care. You're making me nervous when you keep saying it. Jimin complained. Isn't that like a puppy? Jungkook teased. Yeah, Jimin nodded, laughing shyly. It might have seemed trivial, just lip balm. But truly, it was a form of love. Love that doesn't need grand declarations. Love that lives in the small things, the things you notice. Soon after, Jimin pulled out a photo. I want to show you something annoying. But it's normal, I swear. Are you sure you want to show that? Jungkook asked gently, but seriously. The photo was familiar. Close. Maybe too personal. But before that, there was another photo, one only they saw. One they didn't share. One too precious to be shown. Are you sure? Jungkook asked again. A simple question on the surface. But in their language, it meant, let's keep this just for us. Then Jimin revealed something that left fans torn between laughter and disbelief. Every day, he comes into my room while I'm sleeping, records me, and leaves. Crazy, right? Jungkook didn't deny it. Instead, he burst into song. I'll come to you. I'm asleep, he walks in, stands there, records me, then leaves. Weird. Jimin added, laughing. But in that weirdness, we saw how Jungkook loves. Not through grand words, but through a quiet, consistent presence. Through little rituals only the two of them understand. Then came a comment from a viewer. You two are such a perfect couple. Jungkook read it, didn't deny it, didn't deflect. He let it stay. And that was his answer. But then the atmosphere shifted. Jungkook suddenly slipped his hand into Jimin's shirt. Are you looking for trouble? Jimin asked, surprised and laughing. It's warm here, Jungkook replied calmly, as if it were the most normal thing. Looking for trouble? Jimin repeated. Then came this. If I'm in trouble, how will you punish me? Silence. A long pause. Laughter followed, but it couldn't erase the subtle tension hanging in the air. Jimin then sang a line. Whom is my heart waiting for? Jungkook set down his cup, looked straight at Jimin and asked, who are you really waiting for? No answer. And yet in that silence, we got the most honest reply. They later spoke about Jimin's performance in Set Me Free PT2. When was I naked? Jimin asked, feigning ignorance. In Set Me Free PT2, you only wore a jacket. Jungkook replied without hesitation. Laughter exploded. Jungkook quipped, a Korean proverb meaning, don't criticize others if you do the same. They also recalled their trip to Da Nang, Vietnam, how a shop owner cupped Jimin's cheek and said, oh, you're so beautiful. She probably thought you were really sweet, Jungkook added. And that word, sweet, sounded different coming from his lips. Time flew. 2 hours passed like a dream. No script. No repetition. Yet every second stayed with us. After that, Jungkook even did a solo live for 2 more hours. As if writing a continuation to a story he didn't want to end. And we know, Jikook never openly say, we love each other. But they don't have to, because that love, it's already felt. In the way they look at each other. In those brief, meaningful hugs. In the small, almost invisible worries. And in the silence that speaks louder than words. They never say outright, we love each other. But we don't need those words. Because their love is palpable. In smiles that only appear when they're together. In teasing that sounds more like a promise. And in the silence that says it all. Thank you for watching this special episode on Jikook Magic. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because every second of Jikook deserves to be remembered. See you in the next video. And remember, their story isn't over. We're simply witnessing a love that is slowly revealing itself.